Hi, my name is Antonio. I'm from the Nocturnal. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Alia. Nice to meet you
So first I wanted to say congrats on season five. And from what I've seen, you did an incredible job.
too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about your character and your experience playing Dory?
Yes. Well, Dory is a complicated gal, someone who's in search for herself, um, and kind of at whatever cost. So throughout the 5 seasons, she's taken some big leaps in trying to connect to this existential crisis I think she's been having for a long time.
Right.
Um, And yeah, and season five is no different. She just starts off having a near death experience or a death experience and comes back enlightened. And I think this time around, she thinks she's really figured it out.
Right. And was there anything you had to do different to prepare for this season, or any research you had to do about, becoming enlightened?
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of fun research. I listened to a lot of Ram Dass and watched a lot of videos of him. So it kind of starts off in this like peaceful guru, giggly and light, and just keeping that kind of like bouncy energy. And
Mhm.
then it kind of tracks to more of a darker cult energy, more Keith Raniere kind of, like
Right.
manipulative darkness. So yeah, I kind of tried to track that, um, that change, that shift of somebody who's enlightened, but it turns sour.
Got you. Got you. Is there any aspect of Dory that you relate to, if there or if any?
Yeah, sadly, definitely a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of me in there. Um, I think our generation or anyone, any human is grappling with the idea of finding an identity and then sticking to it and being like, I guess this is the one I got, and you hope you like it, because a lot of the times you don't, and then you try and destroy yourself. So I definitely can connect to that. Being an actor, you're pretending to be lots of different people, so sometimes it's like that's an avoidant experience in itself, like, oh, I don't really want to be me, I just want to pretend to be all these other people. So I guess I've learned from her that maybe it's best not to search for too long.
Awesome. Now I think, in my opinion, I've seen you in a lot of stuff. I think you're very funny, but also
Thank you.
you've done, of course, and you've done some also more serious roles as well. So how
Mhm.
would you compare doing something that's, going from like more comedy scenes while also having to implement, a much more serious, much more serious situations? Sorry, that's a long question.
No, it's okay. You mean in reference to search
Third
party or
party.
just in general? Yeah. Well, search party has such a interesting tone where it is a comedy, but there is a lot of dramatic stakes. Everything is like the stakes are really high. So, at least for my character, I've always tried to track it where, Dory doesn't usually get to be the funny one. I mean, she's in funny scenarios, but funny situations, but she's always taking everything very seriously. And so to me, when I work on the show, I don't ever play the comedy. Um, so even when I do stuff that's more just straight up comedic, it's like you got to find the truth in it, which is usually a little more serious, just because it's the reality that the character's in. But yeah, I've always joked about it, with John Early and stuff, that like I'm like, oh, I'm always like way too serious. Like throughout the whole show, like Dory is just like, this is for real though.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I feel like that's the balancing and the unique tone of the show is that there's like things are played very straight, at least for Dory, like very genuine and realistic. And then all the rest of the surreal realities happening around her can fly based off of that.
Got you. Is there anything that you want people to learn from watching Dory? Anything in particular that you want them not, I guess, to take away from watching her character?
Yeah, don't kill people. You won't get away with it. Yeah, hmm, I think Dory's been an interesting character, especially if you watch the whole show over all the seasons, about how somebody, who has a lot of perseverance can kind of get what they want, but you have to be careful about what it is that you want and make sure that your intentions are true and that you're not just jumping into the fire just because you want to prove you can do it. You have to make sure that the goal is worth it.
Awesome. And for my last question, is there anything that you're excited for or looking forward to in season 5? I guess without giving too much away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to just see how people respond to it. It definitely takes quite a turn at the end, so I'm excited to see how that lands.
Mhm.
Every season's always a big turn and surprise, but I feel like this one is the biggest swing yet. So I'm excited to see how audiences respond to that surprise.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much. I appreciate it. And yeah,
Yeah,
have a good rest of your day.
thank you. You too.
All right. Hi, my name is Antonio. I'm with the Nocturnal. Um, I guess to start, could you guys both tell us a little bit something about your characters?
John.
My character is Drew Gardner. He has 3 brothers. He's 6'5" tall, and he's from Chicago, Illinois. And I think he just wishes everyone would behave a little normal, but no one does.
Nice.
And I'll go. I played Portia Davenport. She was born in 1903. I played Portia. She's an actress. That's where we'll start.
Awesome. So both of your characters, Portia and Drew, are like kind of insane, and they have some really crazy but also real interactions on the screen. How are you guys able to achieve that level of comfortability together?
Well, I don't like John at all as a person, sort of fundamentally, and so there is no comfort. And I think that actually works for our characters. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree, and it's all on me. I'm the weird one.
Yeah, and he's kind of like every cast. There's a Samantha. It's John.
Yeah. You know me. You know me. I would say just time. We know each other for a long time. And I think we all share like a common sensibility, so there's an easy shorthand, and
Yeah.
Everyone's really funny, so that really helps. Because if there was one person who wasn't funny, that would really suck.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now the show is like it's interesting because it blends the comedy with very like real situations. How are you guys able to balance, adding in, you know, the comedy behind, what your characters do with the seriousness and the reality of the situations?
I feel like it's just taking the script seriously and not performing them with irony or winking to the camera or anything, because there are real human emotions behind these, improbable situations. So I think everyone is just good at playing those subtleties and then knowing when to add a little pizzazz in.
Mhm.
And again, the comfortability of just knowing each other. So it's like people feel comfortable to take some swings.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the writing is so strong, and that like for actors is literally everything. And so like John said, there's a lot of freedom on set, and so when something's feeling like, oh, this is feeling kind of extra funny today, and like leaning into it, and then there's other days where it swings in the opposite direction, and you're really connecting to the circumstances, and things feel more dramatic sometimes. So it's kind of this like moving thing. But I think everyone shares a similar sensibility for the things they like to watch and that they think are funny, and so that means that we're all coming at it from the same kind of place, which is nice.
Nothing ever feels false. I don't think I've ever had a moment on the show I'm like, you think my character would do this? Or like, this is
Yeah.
weird. It just all feels like, oh, that's the natural progression. And also,
Yeah.
I mean, the show started from such a grounded, like, show about millennial ennui, and then now it has become something else. So it hasn't been like full, 180. It's been very gradual, and it's all made a lot of sense.
Right. So the how you guys were talking about the writing and how it's, it's a very well written show. How much of you know, the reactions and the dialogue exchanges are written versus how much of that is coming just from, you know, you feeling the character? Or does it vary?
I'd say it's like, I feel like, John, I don't know if you agree, but I feel like as every season goes on, there's less improvisation.
Yeah, I think it's mostly written, and then
Yeah.
you absolutely have the freedom to add in little things you want. But I
Right.
also think, again, I credit to the writers, like as the season's gone on, they've understood the actors a lot.
Hmm.
So they tend to write things really well in people's voice, and
Hmm.
so there's not like a lot of need to add in stuff.
Got
Yeah.
you. Um, so my next question is, what is your favorite and least favorite part about your characters?
Um, my least favorite part are her very uncomfortable shoes because they would always make my feet bleed. And my favorite part is just there's so much to do and play, and she's uh, such a just I love Portia, even though she's insane and wildly, um, frankly disturbed.
Right.
I love her, and she's really fun to play.
I'd say my least favorite part is how tight he is and how much inner turmoil he has that he suppresses. And my favorite part is when he gets to release that and have a full on meltdown on camera and scream and cry. That's my favorite.
Awesome. And the last question that I have for you guys is, what do you want the viewers to like take away, you know, from watching your, you know, from your characters?
I just hope the show's a time capsule. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it has sort of evolved as culture has evolved over the last 6 years. There's not a lot of like timely references in it. Um, so I just hope it is around for a long time.
Yeah, me too. I just, yeah, I hope people watch it. I feel like it's one of those shows that it's like it's hard to compartmentalize because it's so its own thing. And so I think it's special that people that take the time to like go on. I think from the pilot you'd be shocked by where you get by season 5. So I think the people that take their time and actually commit to watching it will be, yeah, I think just taking like the experience of watching something unique is special. So that's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your answers. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Hey, John, how's it going? My name is Antonio. I'm with the Nocturnal.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So, first, I just wanted to say, you know, your comedy style is so unique. I've watched you on the Tim Robinson sketch that you just recently did, and your character Elliot is insane. He's crazy. Where does your comedy style come from?
Hmm. Well, I'm just a kind of patchwork, hastily made patchwork quilt of all my influences. Um, so yeah, it just comes from growing up watching people like Jennifer Saunders and Lisa Kudrow and watching John Waters movies. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
just straight up them. It's a little bit. It's Sherry O'Terry, Molly Shannon on a gas tire. That's it.
Now that
I'm
you said that,
33.3% repeating each
I
of them.
could definitely see that now. I could definitely see it.
You're supposed to
Now,
say that I seamlessly blend it so as to not notice.
right. Oh, I see. I see. Now, Elliot, he's one of, as I said, he's one of the wildest characters on TV. Do you remember your initial reaction when you realized like what type of person you had to play?
No, I mean, yes, but there was no kind of shock. It was definitely completely in line with like my sensibility. It was completely in line with what I knew Charles and SV's, the creators of the show, their sensibility to be. So I wasn't surprised. But I would say I'm, you know, as an actor, you're always surprised when something gets picked up each season, delightfully
Right.
surprised, you know. So every new season, I was like, oh my god, like they turn up the dial on Elliot, not on all the characters, just a little bit more.
Right.
And on some level though, I'm always like, well, this is the kind of natural conclusion for Elliot, like this, but then I'm always shocked by what they do with him.
100%. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about Elliot's character development throughout the show?
Um, well, like all good comedies, I feel like um he remains the same, and they all do, and like they all kind of keep bumping up against the same parts of themselves, and I think that's actually more true to life than a lot of great dramas um, that insist on people changing. But I do think that Elliot has grown up a little bit, as you can see in the beginning of this season. There's the kind of superficial ways that he's growing up, and then he's kind of like adopting a child, like kind of wants to look like a family man. He's like
Right.
doing like he's like aesthetically settling down. He's not actually settling down. Um, he's still like manic. Um, but I do think he has kind of grown up a little bit in the way he's like being upfront about how toxic he is. He's
Right.
still totally toxic. He has no desire to change that, but he's being very kind of like with Mark, he's very like, I'm gonna hurt you. I need that, like I'm
Right.
just
Right.
being honest about it, which I think is kind of interesting. It's a shred of growth.
Got you. Do you find yourself relating to Elliot at all? And like, how much of Elliot do you think is you versus how much of it is like you acting?
Yeah, well, I mean, not to be like woo woo about it, but like with acting, you are like, you kind of like realize over time how much of yourself you're putting into something. And it's not, I don't identify with a lot of who Elliot is, but I am putting my own kind of like behavior and mannerisms and like
Right.
affect into him. So I do feel very, very close to him. I mean, I feel like ultimately, like Elliot is like kind of at once like a steamroller and
Hmm.
kind of like always ahead of himself and just moving, 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 which I certainly identify with. And then like, but when he gets like a moment alone, he's just like fully like, he's like lazy. He's like a
Right.
clumsy like climber. Like,
Yeah.
he's not like a super crisp, like premeditated, like ambitious climber. He's actually kind of like a clown. He's like always tripping over himself as he's trying to climb. And I think that I certainly relate to, just kind of being a fool.
Yeah. I remember one scene in specific where I think it was the pilot where right as soon as you find out that like the girl is missing, he just tweets like, "Oh my God, I'm so sad." Like thoughts go out, and I just was like, that's the character.
Yeah, and that's like the generation, like that.
Yeah,
I think that was very universal.
100%. A little lighter of a topic. Your outfits,
Yeah.
they're insane. They're like, where do they wear? Like, where do they come from?
He basically, Matthew Simonelli, who's just a real genius, in a kind of Patricia Field, Sex and the City way. Like he's really, um, he is, I think, hugely responsible for like why the show pulls off its kind of heightened style while
Okay.
still being like, it never loses any of its like emotional power or like its actually like real feeling of suspense. Um, but like I think part of that is that like we're all, the four of us have a very like, I'm a ham for sure, but like we're all like, mostly grounded, trying to kind of like keep it emotionally grounded, and the costumes do so much of the work with the
Okay.
style. But he just gets it like, I mean, he, for me specifically, he gets like the most expensive shit ever. And it's so funny how it's like it caught, I mean, every single piece on me in that show is like thousands of dollars. So he's
Really?
going to like, I mean, he's just going to Soho. He's going, and he's going to all the, fancy, like just like designer stuff. And, people, I think designers are happy to have their stuff on TV. So it's like, it's not that hard for him. But like, I would, I imagine that a significant portion of the budget goes into Elliott's clothes.
Um, next question is, what would you say is your favorite and least favorite thing about Elliot?
My favorite thing about Elliot.
Or maybe what's your favorite thing that Elliot has probably is like said, or like a funny thing Elliot has said? That might be better.
Yeah, I mean, I love the thing I like miss about doing Elliot is like I love the moments where Elliot just kind of drops his kind of individual kind of narcissistic struggle for self-actualization and for success and power, and is just kind of with his friends and is a little bit just kind of like eating popcorn watching the drama unfold. Like that's what I love doing the most, is when it's like the four of us in a car and I'm just kind of like, and like gasping and like making fun of Drew, and like, like there's that's what I'll miss the most, is like our kind of dynamic as a foursome. My least favorite thing about Elliot is is I was gonna say the wardrobe, just because it's so insane, but I
Yeah.
love wearing those clothes. It's not true. I really love wearing those clothes. I would say just like the running around. I'm getting old. I have a bad back. Like I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I cannot do it anymore. And like Search Party is like, it's become more and more kind of like genre-y, like action based.
Right.
And I'm just like, this past season, I was like, y'all, I can't run down the street at 5 a.m. with these shoes, with these crazy shoes,
Yeah. Awesome. I guess my last question is, what do you want people to take away or learn from Elliot?
I hope they're not learning anything from. I hope they're learning how not to be watching
Right.
Elliot. I mean, I guess that's that. Just like, don't do anything he does.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your answers. It was a pleasure meeting you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Of course. Hi, my name is Antonio. I'm from the Nocturnal.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? So first, I guess you just start us off by telling us a little bit about Search Party and how it all came to be.
Yeah, many years ago, Sarah Violet and I went to film school together. We went to NYU grad film school. We made a feature film as our thesis film called Fort Tilden, and that went to festivals. And then off of that movie, we went around pitching a TV show. We partnered up with Michael Showalter, who was our teacher. And Michael and this company, Jax Media, that produces Search Party, had the idea to throw like a murder mystery hook onto our millennial satire tone. And that sounded really cool to us. And so it was kind of like a homework assignment that we jumped on, and started as a very simple story about someone who's lost searching for someone who's missing, and it's thus evolved into this like much bigger broader show.
Right. Now you guys are in season 5 of the show. Did you guys have to overcome any challenges to keep it interesting for so long?
I mean, the challenges that we have overcome are things that we've thrown at ourselves and just made, shows that after season 1, we were like, okay, now what is the show? And that was like really hard to realize that what we were doing basically, which was making it a different genre each season. And in doing that, the challenges just like never end. So yeah, there have been lots of challenges, and each time having to learn a new way to write whatever like genre that we're going into. Like season 3, the courtroom genre, it was like, okay, well, we sort of did a great job figuring out the murder mystery, and then the like running away from your crimes mystery, like not mystery, but world, and now we have to do a courtroom drama, and now we're doing this other thing, you know. So
Right.
every season, it's like it's us trying to crack the code of those different worlds that we're encountering.
Yeah, I think our issue is more that like we try to make it too interesting,
Yeah.
and then we're like, oh God, now we have to write that.
How did you come to the conclusion that you guys wanted to have like that thought, like different genres is what your show needed?
Honestly, I think in between going from season 1 to season 2 was when that sort of like emerged, because we were, you know, trying to figure out like how do we keep it within the same world of what we just did, but also evolve the story, because I don't want to like just extend this murder mystery or create a fake new murder mystery or whatever. And so like when we finally really figured out what season 2 was, it freed us up to being like, okay, no, we're just going full throttle into this other world rather than trying to keep what the show, you know, sort of promised itself to be in season 1. And what remains are the, you know, emotional reality of the characters and you know, the story. You really have to watch every season to understand what's happening from the season before, like from before. It's not like you can just pick it up and know, but there are consequences from each season that go into the next and lead into a new territory.
Awesome. I was gonna say a very intriguing aspect of your show is like the plot and the storyline, but the characters and their dialogue exchanges are what makes it feel so real. Where did the characters come? Did they come from like a real place? Were they from real people? And how did you develop that and implement that into the show?
They started as, when we wrote the pilot, kind of in a vacuum of just like imagining people we knew, they started as composites of different people that we knew that we were kind of drawing from. And then once we cast those actors, like they're such strong flavors of people that like inevitably we just wrote towards them. So at this point, they're their own thing. But when they first started, the way we were conceiving them was being like, oh, it's kind of like this person or this person. And we know a lot of the same people from having gone to school together and just socially, you know, all the worlds overlapping, that like it's kind of easy to. But now, you know, in the 5th season, we're drawing from like really big archetypes of people like Elon Musk, Marianne Williamson, Eckhart Tolle, Elizabeth Holmes, like, you know, whereas it started as just like, oh, it's like that person we know. Now it's like, oh, the world of the show has gotten so much bigger in scope and sort of like they've all become more prominent in a way that now it's a satire that started, I think, a little more niche about like, you know, our sort of social world, and now it's turned into like a bigger satire about culture in general.
Right. Did you, for the satire aspect, was there a lot of other like shows or movies that you had to watch as like for inspiration to really get down, like for the courtroom drama, for example, or, you know, the murder mystery aspect?
Yeah, it's funny you said it, because I don't know, but the satire I feel like came naturally to us as in terms of our voice, and then adding it onto the genres that we were playing with. We definitely have references for all the different seasons. I can't even remember. I'm like,
The courtroom genre, like the O.J. Simpson
Yeah.
show, the Ryan Murphy show, that was a big influence. And My Cousin Vinny, those were big influences for that. And with the first season, yeah, I think first season, what was so hard about writing the first season was that we were trying to write a mystery that wasn't a mystery. And so like we were trying to like borrow from tropes from, you know, like classic mystery stuff, but then at the same time, like it's not actually all adding up. Like it was about trying to make it seem like it was.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, my food is here. I have to grab it so that the person doesn't run away. I'll be right back.
For sure. I guess I have a few more questions. So what do you want your viewers to take away from the show, like from watching it? I know that everyone might have a different interpretation, but is there anything specific that you want to leave the viewers with?
Yeah, it's the show, I think, is really about human behavior. And it's about the sides of it's about every side of being a human, and whether that's the stuff that's hard to look at, or the stuff that you propose are, you know, like the aspects of yourself that are the most representative of you. You know, I think that the show kind of like spans like a lot of different psychological portraits. And so like ultimately I think what is, you know, uncomfortable to some people about the show is that it doesn't really place judgment on any particular way of conducting life or thinking, but it's kind of just like a survey of like what is beautiful and difficult and cringy and hilarious about being alive.
I was just asking what, if you have anything to add, what do you want your viewers to learn or take away from the show?
Oh yeah, that's a big question. Yeah, that there's humor in our pain, I guess, you know, and both taking it seriously, but also seeing it for its absurdity, I guess, to sum it up.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your answers. I really appreciate it. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
You too.